It's Grandma. Can I read you a story? This is a story called Rapunzel. There was once a husband and wife who lived near a grand castle. The couple didn't know it, but the castle was owned by a wicked sorceress. Behind the castle wall was a wonderful garden full of beautiful flowers and good things to eat. The wife would look out and see the castle garden from her little cottage. A time came when the husband and wife were going to have their first child. The sorceress, who had no children, wanted theirs and decided to cast a spell on the woman. If the spell worked, the sorcerer could have the child for herself. That very day, the wife began to long for Rapunzel, a blue flowering plant that grew only in the sorcerer's garden. As time passed, the spell made the wife long for the plant more and more. Finally, she began to feel ill and begged her husband to please get her some Rapunzel leaves from the garden. She knew that if she ate a salad of the leaves, she would feel better again. That night, the husband climbed over the garden wall and stole some of the fresh green Rapunzel leaves. His wife ate them greedily and began to feel better. But the taste only made her want more. Reluctantly, the husband returned night after night. Then one evening, when the moon was full, he slipped over the wall to find the tall, dark figure of the sorceress waiting for him. "Thief! How dare you steal from me?" she said angrily. Frightened, the man fell to his knees before her and tried to explain. When the sorcerer heard him speak of the coming of his first child, her manner changed and her voice softened. "You may have all the Rapunzel you wish, on one condition. When the child is born, you must give it to me." When the husband refused, the sorcerer said, "Oh, I'm sure your wife will agree to this." To his surprise, the man's wife did agree to give up the child, for the spell was working. The wife said, "Surely the owner of that beautiful castle is a great lady, and she will take such good care of our child." In the next few weeks, the wife grew healthier. She was given all the Rapunzel she wished, and rapidly her strength returned. Soon a beautiful baby girl was born to her. She called the baby Rapunzel, after the blue flowering plant that she had loved so much. As promised, Rapunzel's parents had to give the baby to the sorceress. When the heartbroken parents left, the sorceress said to herself, "Now I will have the child all to myself." For 12 years, she kept Rapunzel in her castle, and the girl grew to be very beautiful. Her eyes were as blue as the blue flowering plant that she was named after, and her long silken hair was as golden as the sun. The sorceress never allowed Rapunzel to cut her hair. When it began to trail on the floor, the sorcerer made one long braid of it and wound it around Rapunzel's head like a golden crown. On Rapunzel's 12th birthday, the sorcerer moved her to a secluded tower. The tower did not have stairs or a door, but high at the top was a small window. When the sorceress wanted to visit Rapunzel, she stood beneath the window and called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." The girl uncoiled her long, thick braid and let it fall like a rope through the open window until it reached the sorcerer's outstretched hands. The sorceress climbed to the top of the tower and entered the window. While they were together, the sorceress combed and braided Rapunzel's hair, and always asked the same question: "Who have you seen since I was here?" Rapunzel always answered, "No one, stepmother, for who would the poor lonely girl see while locked up in a tower?" One night, a handsome young prince came riding through the forest. He heard Rapunzel's sweet voice as she sang a beautiful song. The prince followed the sound till he came to the tower, but he could find no way in. Since it was late, he decided to rest until morning. At daybreak, he was awakened by an old woman's harsh call. "Rapunzel!" the voice demanded. "Rapunzel, let down your golden hair!" All at once, the golden braid came tumbling down from the open window. When the prince saw the sorceress grab hold of the braid and climb up the tower, he said, "So that's how you get inside." Patiently, the prince waited, and at last he saw the sorcerer leave. Then he decided to try his luck. He called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." As soon as she did, he held her long braid and climbed the tower. Rapunzel and the prince fell in love the moment they saw each other. They wanted to be together, but they had to find a way to get Rapunzel down from the tower. The prince promised to return the next day with a rope ladder. "Then you will be free at last." On the following morning, the sorceress came to visit, and she said, "Who have you seen, Rapunzel, since I was last here?" Rapunzel couldn't tell a lie, and she told her all about the handsome prince. The sorceress flew into a rage and took hold of Rapunzel's braid. She cut the beautiful hair with a pair of scissors. Snip, snip, snip! And the braid fell to the floor. Then in an instant, the heartless sorceress carried Rapunzel far off to the most deserted place in the whole world and left her there, alone. At nightfall, when the prince arrived to rescue Rapunzel, he called, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your golden hair." When the braid came falling down the window, the prince took hold of it and climbed up to the tower. But instead of seeing his beloved Rapunzel, he found the cruel sorceress waiting for him. She fixed her cold black eyes upon him and cast a spell that blinded him. "Rapunzel is lost to you forever," she cried. "You will never see her again." The prince fell from the window, and though he escaped with his life, he could no longer see. Lost and alone, he stumbled away to wander hopelessly in search of Rapunzel. Years passed, until at last the unhappy prince came to the most deserted place in the whole world. All of a sudden, he heard a sweet voice singing. Though it had been many years since he had heard the voice, it was familiar. Eagerly he followed the sound, and soon the poor young man stood before Rapunzel. When she saw her beloved prince, Rapunzel threw her arms around his neck and wept for joy. Her tears fell upon his eyes and broke the spell of the sorcerer's evil spell. The prince could see, and he saw Rapunzel as never as ever before. The prince led Rapunzel back to his own kingdom, where they were welcomed with great rejoicing. At last they were free of the wicked sorceress, and they lived out their lives together in love. The end.